Welcome to I May Be Wrong.
I don't know what this world is coming to.
But I don't think so. We're broadcasting from the greater Nashville area, the home of country music, beyond the borders of political correctness and identity politics. Facts and faith are our demarcations. Truth lights our path.
Here's the Barry White of Podcast Radio,
The Venerable Alfonso Ashworth.
Well, welcome to another exciting episode of I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So. Of course, we welcome you in today. We got a great program for you. I've got someone waited in the queue that I've known for a while. Met him a few years ago through the Line Chasers radio program. He's from Boise, Idaho. Alan C. Jones is someone you're really gonna enjoy. But before we get started, of course, you can see that I have my book available. You can get the book at I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So, called No Snow Days. Of course, we appreciate that you can come on and enjoy us today. If you have some comments, you want to say something on the program, just get on there and make your comments, and I will try to share them as we go along with the program. Look, there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening out there right now. There's a lot going on with the virus. There's a lot happening. So I thought it'd be a great time to talk about something else. Something that a lot of people have heard about. They've heard about the Buffalo Soldiers. They saw the movies. They've seen the documentaries. They've read the history. But I have a brother on here that knows something else about the Buffalo Soldiers that you may not have known about. The Bicycle Corps, the Buffalo Soldiers, and how the lieutenant that they followed, of course, and this story is so fascinating. It just fascinated me right off the bat. I mean, I was like, I've got to have this story on. I've got to talk about it. And I tell you what, there is no one better to talk about this than, of course, my friend and fellow warrior in the good fight of faith, Mr. Alan C. Jones. Of course, welcome to the program, Alan. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, except my volume went down a little bit. It's a little hard to hear you now than it was a little while ago.
Can you hear me now?
I mean, I can hear you, but you're very faint for some reason.
All right. Well, let me see if I can help you with that. Let me see where I can go, Alan. Of course, this is technology. Technology is something that we all have to get used to. And, of course, a lot of things that's happening right now. Let's see here. Let's get me not wanting to go up. Here we go. See if that's a little bit better, Alan. Is that a little bit better for you?
No, that's weird. It just
dropped on you.
Got quiet. I mean, I can hear you.
Okay, let's do what we can, the best we can. I hear pretty good. And if somebody's on the chat room, if you think you need to do something, and if y'all can't hear us, let us know. Now let's jump into this. One, how did you get involved in this project called the Following the Lieutenant, Buffalo Soldiers of the Bicycle Corps?
I am involved in the acting community here in the Valley.
Okay, and that's where Boise and where you tell the people where you're from.
Church Valley here in Boise.
Okay,
and it's a fairly decent size, but it's also kind of a tight knit community a little bit also. When word know other people and looking at different polls, and the guy director contacted me on this project. I'd like to know if you'd be interested in doing it.
Right.
But it was, wow. Heck yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Right. Your audio's cutting in and out on me, Alan. I tell you what I'm going to do. Let me call you, and I'm going to get you on the call.
Oh,
Yeah, because it's feedback. I can hear myself. Yeah. Do you have some headphones you can put on? Do you have a headset?
I do.
Okay. See if you can grab your headsets because we're getting some feedback right there. And that'll help. That'll probably help you with the sound too, big guy.
All righty. Since we're talking about, the 1890s, we might as well have some difficulties. They didn't have all the stuff.
There you go. There we go. Got it?
All right.
There you go.
Say something.
Check
we're good.
Yeah, there we go. Now let's do this. Now, getting back to where we were, tell the audience, one, how did you get in acting? What brought you to how to get involved with this project with the Buffalo Soldiers?
Well, I have been basically acting since elementary school.
Okay.
Matter of fact, but the first role I ever had in fifth grade was Reverend Ralph Abernathy.
Okay.
Was in a play about Martin Luther King. And it just kind of developed from there. I went and got into drama in junior high and then in play production on through high school. And it's something that I enjoyed. I did fairly well, matched my personality along with all the other things I was doing. And then when a few years back, I let it die for a while. You get to work and you do all these things, but it just, certain things don't leave you.
Right.
So I answered an ad. I got back involved in doing some commercials and other video projects, and it just blossomed from there. And then I ended up getting an agent for another avenue to get some roles. And
right.
I still dabbled on the stage and some theater work. I was on the board for a theater company for a while.
And of course, that led you, of course, into this project that we want to discuss about the Buffalo Soldiers. Explain to the audience, if they're not familiar with the Buffalo Soldiers, what are the Buffalo Soldiers? What were they?
Now, see, it was interesting because I, of course, like many of us, have heard of the Buffalo Soldiers. I knew about them for years and years, but and of course, they were the black troops in the army back in the late 1800s, and of course, they were a separate unit. But primarily, what I didn't know before this project was that the Indians are the ones that came up with the name, the Buffalo Soldiers.
Wow.
Because of the hair that the blacks had, and then they wore a lot of buffalo hide. And so that's how, and they were a very tough outfit. So I knew about that, but then when I heard about this aspect of the Bicycle Corps, I had never heard of that part of it, like most people. So that was interesting and intriguing. And I don't have a copy of the book, but I got to see, working on this project, a little bit of this book is called Iron Riders. And that kind of tells the story about the Bicycle Corps, the Buffalo Soldiers. And so that's who the Buffalo Soldiers are. They were tough.
And of course, the bicycle and the lieutenant, the story, and the character that you played, which character are you playing in this documentary?
I'm playing a character. His name is Mingo Sanders.
Okay.
And Mingo Sanders was basically a career man in the Army, and he was one of the first people to get involved. He was chosen to be a part of the Bicycle Corps from this guy, Lieutenant Moss, who was trying to make a name for himself in the Army, and he was a bicycle enthusiast, kind of like the director of this documentary. That's part of the reason what intrigued him, because he's a bicycle guy. And in different places around the world, the bicycle was being used for more things. And so he thought if he could prove that the bicycle could be better, more efficient than using a horse or whatnot, then he could really do something.
And this lieutenant, he was he an African American or was he Caucasian?
No, Lieutenant James Moss was a white American. He went to West Point. He wasn't at the top of the class. Let's say he was just an average Joe, but he was really struggling. He wanted to make a name for himself and do something, and there was nothing inherently wrong with him. He just didn't.
So in essence, he was given this assignment because, one, he wasn't at the top of his class, so to speak, but apparently he had this idea about using the bicycle because of his,
that's how it all started,
because of his own passion, of course. And how did that evolve? How did they, because if you want to see the documentary, I've seen the documentary. It is great. It is very well done. The camera work, the acting, and all is spectacular. How can people see this documentary? And of course, I'll post it on my wall. But how can they see the documentary?
Well, just right at the moment, it's available on that post, on that link. I know you shared it. I shared it. And it was just came up available for people to actually see because of it's an online film festival.
Okay.
And so technically it wasn't available up until like 2 weeks ago, just before when I made the post and you saw it, because it was in line for like at least 4 different film festivals. But then all this, I don't know if we want to mention that word. We're trying to take a break from it, but all this stuff came down. And all these everything got postponed and cut off, and so I'm sure once they start back up, it'll go. But then this online festival came out, so I have it shared on Facebook, and I know you did too.
Right.
But that's the only place really it's public at the moment.
Then what's the directing, all the investment into this project, the acting, which is top chef, by the way. I just loved it. What are they wanting to do with this project as far as getting it out to average people so that they can see this? Right now, it's sort of in its infancy, is what I'm understanding. It's going to evolve. And of course, I'm hoping that it will get a broader audience, because I think most Americans, not only do they not know the story of the Buffalo Soldier, but they also didn't realize the technology of that day. Horses comes to mind, but horses were not the only means of transportation. And what were the difficulties with using the bicycle as a means of transportation for these soldiers?
Yeah. Well, they were very heavy back in the day. They're nothing like the bicycles of today. They weren't very comfortable. The bicycles we used weren't as heavy. They weren't iron like the other ones were, so they weren't as heavy, but they were not comfortable. They tried to make it as close as possible to the seats. Were terrible, but that's what they had. And so the bicycle, you figured out how to pack your gear and whatnot, but and their tires weren't that great back then.
Right.
But the roads that they have weren't overly conducive, but they made it happen. And the documentary tells a little bit about how they chose the trails that they did, but when the weather was bad, that made it very difficult. That was probably the 2 drawbacks I would think from the bicycle as opposed to the horse.
Yeah,
where you could pack more on that horse, and the horse did better on
rough
mud.
Terrain. Yeah.
Other than that,
yeah. But the bicycle did have an advantage. And if people look at this documentary, the bicycle has some advantages that a horse would not be able to easily be used. The fact that the bicycle could be hidden easier. Yeah. I found that to be fascinating. No, you didn't have to feed the bicycle. And of course, but as you just said, it was very difficult. The average size of this group, what was the size of the typical bicycle group in the Buffalo Soldiers of Bicycle Corps?
It was about 20.
About 20 to a corps.
About 20 on the big ride in 1897. They did a couple little practice rides in 1896 that were very short and weren't as many people. And then they did the big one because they were all volunteers.
Okay.
So they didn't have to do it. And so, but they set out what they accomplished what they set out to do. It's just that afterwards, the Army did not choose to make more use of the bicycle. But
I'm surprised because the feeling that I had about it is that it was a great idea for its time. It had its advantages and disadvantages. Now, being a part of the Buffalo Soldiers, and you playing that role, what did that give you a sense of in terms of the history? And the part of the country that we're talking about was very rugged. Give the audience an idea of what that would have looked like for the Black soldiers.
Well, of course, they were a separate unit, and they didn't get the nice, shiny assignments that the white troops got. But they were committed, and they were faithful. They were out west in the post, Montana, through Wyoming area, and then on down in St. Louis. So I mean, they had to do what they had to do. But they were tough and they were committed, and it made me think more of how heartfelt the Black troops were back in the day.
Right.
I mean, they loved this country and they wanted to do their part to make our country great.
And the mindset of the Black soldier, especially in this time, as you just said, the late 1800s, coming out of slavery, the Civil War, all those things that they had to endure. And then for some of these soldiers, it became their way of life. Much like today, people take a profession, whether that be in broadcasting or sports or whatever line of profession they choose to go in. And some are better than others. Were these soldiers special? Were these special soldiers in terms of their career?
I think they were special by the time they finished, but
okay.
They, I don't think they were particularly special. I mean, as a group, like Mingo Sanders had a special quality to him, and that's why he was kind of the right-hand man. He was Sergeant Mingo Sanders, actually. And he was, as one guy puts it, he was the soul of this project.
Okay.
Because and they all respected the lieutenant who was in charge. And, I must admit, they look so proud, in a godly way of what they were doing, what they were trying to accomplish. And it didn't seem like it was just about them. Like so many things nowadays, it seemed like, well, it's about me and what I can do. But
right.
I don't think they didn't seem to see it that way.
Well,
it's encouraging.
Of course, you said godly, and I'm sure a lot of these soldiers had a close relationship in a religious way after, of course, coming through so much of what they did in their families and whatnot. How can you give that message today in terms of our belief and what we're struggling with? Even today as a race, how we're struggling with, abortion, how we're struggling with crime, how we're struggling with drugs, how things are so difficult for some in our groups. How can we use what our forefathers did, especially these soldiers? How can we encourage young people to not be so caught up in themselves, but be willing to work hard for others? How can we give that message in a biblical way?
Well, part of it is parenting. Of course, we don't even need to say that, but and part of it is really looking at the real history of it, because when we look at the real history of Black Americans before, let's just say the 60s or 50s,
Right.
1960s or 50s. It was a very biblically oriented, spiritual, from a godly sense. That word is one of my trigger words. And in their views and beliefs about the country and about how family was, needs to really be taught. There's so many Black people that I know personally, of course, and or related to, who don't know what political persuasion or how committed they were to the Bible back in the day. And there was that swing a few decades back where Satan got a hold of the information and the belief in the Black community and just contorted history.
Correct. And so, so what you're saying is the biblical story, along with their determination and their tenacity, brought them through something that most of us can not imagine. I mean, I can't imagine going through what they did in order to carry out their mission, and to do so with something so basic that we think about today. You know, we use the bicycle for pleasure. I mean, you know, we don't use the bicycle for work. Most of us, we don't. But they had to use this because they had no other option. They were given this tool, they were given this project, they were given this mission, and they carried that mission out with pride, with determination, and all based on a biblical foundation. And I think that's what we're missing. And of course, I'm gonna let you kind of carry that through. One, tell my audience again who you are and how can they find this video.
It's Alan Jones, not to be confused with the producer or the race car driver or the singer. But and so here in good old Boise area, Idaho, which is not anywhere near as scary as people used to think.
Well, and that too, y'all dealing with the virus a little bit different out there too. We don't have time to go into that, but y'all been dealing with that a little bit better than say New York has. And I'm proud of you guys. Very proud of you. Definitely. So they can find this video. They can find the video on the link. I'll link it again to my wall. And of course, and they can go and find it.
Alan C. Jones on my profile. It's there. And matter of fact, I need to check and see just how long this this online festival is. And people actually can go on and vote. Actually, I think there are other things they can see too and vote for it and which one it was. Like when you're talking about the spiritual aspect a minute ago, I wanted to mention that even Mingo Sanders, who was the leader and kind of the go-between between the troops and the lieutenant, was referred to as kind of like the spiritual advisor.
Okay.
You know, to keep morale up and to keep focus and to keep things in line. I mean, that's part of the reason why we have some of these issues like you were talking about, is because we're afraid of obedience.
Right. Order.
And commit order and commit. We think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And
well, you know, they also had some dissenters. I mean, I'm sure that there were people that didn't all go along to get along all the time. But of course, we understand that in that time, it was a different time and place for the Black American. I mean, it was vastly different than what it is today. And that's why I commend you for what you're doing to bring this to the American people.
Well, a couple of things I did. You know me, you'll find this funny, is before it was kind of really available, I started trying to kind of push it out there because I'm thinking, okay, this is a great story.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who in the Black community who say that they are, okay, this is a two-sided reason why I did it. But I even contacted the Hutchings Institute. You probably are familiar with that.
Yes.
That's, Professor, I forgot his name now. His for African American studies and all that. I've contacted them several times to try and get them interested because this would fit right in their alley.
Right.
And I talked to a lady once, and she was real nice, but wasn't overly helpful. I'm thinking, come on, this is
right up. This is in their wheelhouse. Yeah, this is in their wheelhouse.
And I sent a message to online. It's kind of hard. Some places they don't want to talk to you. BET, I thought, okay,
right.
It's supposed to be Black entertainment television.
Right.
This is something you should jump on. I've never heard back from them. I think I tried to get a hold of Netflix too, or the History Channel.
Yes.
Or something, but I mean, once I think these film festivals come back and things start rolling again, and when it gets a little notoriety, when people kind of pay attention to some of these film festivals,
I'm telling you,
easier.
I am a fan. I am a fan, Alan. I've seen it. People should see it. People should share this. It should be on the broader networks in terms of the story. I think it's a great story that could be told. And I think you did a great job, helping with that project. And when you told me about what you were doing, I sort of had a vision of you acting and doing some things, but I never realized that you were involved in something of this importance. It's not about how big the project is or how many named actors are in it. This is a very important story for a couple of reasons. It talks about faith. It talks about determination. It talks about enduring a difficult situation for a certain segment of society, and how these brave soldiers carried out a mission and did it in a way that a lot of us should be proud of. And of course, I want to thank you for taking the time. I'm going to have you back because I want to get you on with another brother of mine, Pastor Rivers, because he saw the story and he called me right away and said, "Hey man, what this about this Buffalo Soldier?" And he knows a lot about it as well. So I want to get y'all on together and let y'all sort of share what y'all's knowledge are in this area. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on and be on with me today. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off?
It's always good to end with an encouragement from our Lord. And
amen.
We can't do anything without him. And, I tried to do this and most things when I'm in my right mind,
right,
from the heart to him.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason why certain things turn out well, is because we do it from the right aspect. We do it as to the Lord.
Amen.
And not just to promote ourselves.
Well, I tell you what, I know that you're a person with a good heart, and I've known you since the Lonnie Poindexter days on Line Chasers Radio. And when you would call in, I always appreciated everything that you had to share. And I have not been disappointed. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And I want you to continue doing this and encourage others, and so that we can always be in tune with what God wants us to do, brother. God bless you.
Absolutely. Bless you too. Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Of course, that was my friend and fellow warrior in the good fight of faith, Mr. Alan C. Jones. This has been an interesting broadcast. It's been an interesting day. Of course, we got started a little late because of the technology. But, we overcome. We're not going to frighten. We're not going to fade away from it. Of course, if you would like to be a part of my show, if you would like to contribute, or would you like to be on the show, you can contact me, of course, on my website at I May Be Wrong, but I don't think so.com, or you can find me on Facebook at I May Be Wrong, but I don't think so. You can also find me at Al Ashworth. Of course, Ashworth, the man, the myth, the legend. That's my latest cap that I'm wearing. Of course, some people get upset because I wear my Trump cap. It don't bother me. Look, we got a lot of things happening. There are some challenging times ahead. This economy, what's going on with the virus, all the news that's out there that's starting to sort of want to blame this on one side or the other. Look, nobody can control a virus. Nobody does. Look, if they could control the virus, you wouldn't catch the common cold. Nobody can control these viruses. The virus is out there. We have to learn to deal with it. We have to learn to live with it. And we cannot shut down this economy. We cannot shut down the world because of a virus. It makes absolutely no sense economically. It makes no sense as far as us as humans. And we have to learn to cope with what's out there and what it is. Of course, as always, I want to thank you for chiming in today. And of course, as we normally say, God bless you. God bless America. God bless our children, and peace.
You've been listening to Alfonso Ashworth, the Barry White of Podcast Radio. Go forth and share his message. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Remember, no two people can ever occupy the same place at the same time. You were uniquely and wonderfully made. Born an original. Don't die a copy. God bless. Peace.